Nabisco Golf presents Volume 2 of the PGA Tour's three-part series of instruction. Nabisco is pleased to be associated with the first home video golf instructional series to be endorsed and produced by the PGA Tour. Once again, your host, PGA professional Mark Rolfing.
Hi. For those of you who are improving your full swing by diligently practicing the fundamentals we presented in Tape 1, we're going to show you how to capitalize on your newfound power and accuracy. It doesn't do you any good to hit good golf shots if you can't get the ball into the hole when you get to the green. Once again, let's meet 5 of the PGA Tour's top players. They're going to be your instructors. Our first player is a man who has been the leading money winner, the Varden Trophy winner, and the Player of the Year, among other honors too numerous to mention. Surely he must be one who knows something about scoring in the game of golf. Because of that, we've asked him to try to explain that aspect of the game that at one time or another has given us all fits.
Hello, I'm Tom Kite. I'm going to talk to you about putting.
The next player is one who, as we pointed out in the first tape, is simply a joy to watch. He's known by his fellow pros as a man who is not only very creative around the greens, but is also possessed of the extraordinary touch required to bring off the shots he creates.
I'm Craig Stadler. I'm going to give you some tips on chipping.
If you had to pick one man to hit one shot for all the marbles, you could hardly do better than this man, who in the 1983 Ryder Cup hit a clutch pitch shot on the final hole that resulted in an American victory over a European team that was driving toward an upset. That shot, more than anything else, sums up his game.
I'm Lanny Watkins. I'm going to talk to you about hitting some pitch shots and little wedges around the green.
There are no weak points in the next player's game. He can hit any shot from any place. Sometimes, though, no matter how good you are, you're going to get in trouble. And when you do, you've got to know how to get out. Because if you do, you may find that you're not in nearly as much trouble as you might have thought.
I'm Hal Sutton, and I'm going to hit some bunker shots for you.
The final player, one of the most recognizable ever to play the game, is a perfect choice to prompt you on those little shots around the greens that defy description and that don't seem to fit into any category. Like all world-class players, he has found himself in situations from which there appears to be no escape. Yet if you know where to look and what to look for...
I'm Payne Stewart. You know those unusual little shots you have around the greens? I'm going to help you use your imagination with them.
You couldn't ask for a more qualified group than that to get some ideas from. But the key word there was ideas. There's much more room for individualism in the short game. There's a wider variation in technique that the different players have used. And I'm going to encourage you to experiment more in this tape than I did in the first. There's one overriding aspect, though, one that is frequently overlooked, and it is absolute. It is the one fundamental of the short game.
Everyone understands the importance of the short game.
It's the key to scoring.
When you can capitalize on the good shots,
Or salvage the not-so-good ones.
But few players seem to understand the single most important element of a good short game.
that is feel.
Or touch.
Or finesse.
Whatever you want to call it. It's that ability to hit the ball the required distance time after time.
The reason we say so few players understand this is because we see amateur players in pro-ams every week.
Either they have a death grip on the club or a straight-arm, stiff stance that can't possibly allow them to have any feel.
It's essential that you're comfortable in all short game shots.
You must have a relaxed grip on the club to be able to feel the distance.
If you're strangling the club with the cords in your neck standing out, or you're in a mechanical and contrived stance, you won't be able to maintain that soft, gentle feel.
Soft and gentle. Those are the words to live by on this tape. They represent the single most important aspect of the short game. And no one can have a good short game that does not have feel or touch. No one can have that good soft feel or gentle touch if they're strangling the club. Now, if you're strangling the club because you're beating on all the originals and you're down 3 presses riding on the last hole and your opponent's got it 20 feet under the hole for birdie and you've missed the green again, well, that's another kind of strangling. But if you'll develop a system, your system, you'll find that even that kind of strangling can be reduced. So keep in mind there is only one hard fundamental that we want to get across on this tape. Relax. Grip the club lightly. Develop a soft and gentle touch. Tom Kite is going to get us started with the most cursed and bewildering aspect of the game.
Golf is obviously a very inexact science, and the worst part of it is the putting. There are so many different ways that you can putt, different stances, different strokes, that prove to be very effective. But if you were going to go to a teacher and he was going to try to teach you the simplest, most effective way, it would be one where you would set up down the target line that you're trying to hit the ball on. You would have a straight back, straight through stroke. Your body would be set up square to that line, and everything would be relatively simple, something that would work day in and day out without a whole lot of fluctuations and variables. This is what we're going to try to teach you today. Now, the first thing that you need to do when you're working on your putts is visualize a target line. You get down behind the ball and you line up your putt. Now, in this case, we have a straight putt. So we've drawn in a straight line to the hole, and I will visualize this on practically any putt. If it's a breaking putt, well, then I will have a different line. The line might be faced to the left or to the right of the hole. But like we said, this putt is a relatively straight putt. So what I'm going to try to do is just get the ball started on the line, straight to the hole, and then we're going to try to make the putter go straight back and straight through on that line, and hopefully we'll accelerate it enough to where you'll be able to knock the ball in the hole. Now, on a straight putt, the distance is not near as critical as the accuracy. You want to get the ball started on line. Obviously, you can't hit it too hard. You can't hit the putt 6 or 7 feet past the hole or 2 or 3 inches short of the hole and expect to make the putt. But within reason, distance is not nearly as critical as on a breaking putt. So your main thing is to get the line, get yourself set up, then stroke the putt straight back and straight through on that line. When I get set up, after I visualize my target line and the point where I want this ball to start, I will try to set the putter down perpendicular to that target line, to where the putter face is always looking at the hole. Now, obviously, if I were to set my body in a position where I was way left, even though my putter was set toward the hole, it would be very difficult to take that putter back on a straight path to the hole. I'd have myself in a position where I would cut across it. Conversely, if I was lined up way right, I'd probably have an in-to-out stroke and really have a big hook putt. The ideal situation would be to set yourself square as you can. The putter head would still be set toward the hole, but then everything would be set fairly square to that. Your feet, your hips, your shoulders, and the line across your forearms would all be set parallel to this line on the ground. Now, the most important of those things that we talked about, the feet, hips, shoulders, or the line across your forearms, is the line across your forearms. You swing the club with your arms. And so if your arms are set in a position where they're pointed left, you're probably going to swing it to the left. If they're pointed to the right, you'll probably swing the club out to the right. So you want to have this line right across the top of your forearms going straight toward the hole. The next most important thing will be your shoulders. It's very difficult to get the line across your forearms square if your shoulders are twisted. You'll be in some contorted position where you'll feel very uncomfortable. The least important thing is your feet. Your feet really have no relevance to your upper body. You can twist yourself a little bit. As a matter of fact, a number of really good players, including one that I grew up with, Ben Crenshaw, sets his feet well open, and yet he sets his upper body so square to where he's able to go ahead and stroke the putt straight through and make an awful lot of putts. Now, obviously, the ideal situation would be to have your blade square and then everything set square to that. I think that's what most of the teachers would teach, and that's certainly what I prefer. Then I really make a conscious effort to set my eyes right over the target line. This makes it a little bit easier to be square and to ensure that the blade is on a straight back, straight through path. One of the ways that I check to make sure that my eyes are right over the ball is I'll lift the putter up and suspend it from my eyes, making sure that it plumbs right on the line. Now, if I get too far outside, it's easy to see that the putter was not right over the ball, or if I get too far inside, it's pretty easy to tell. One other thing that I'd like to address is this matter about the pendulum putting stroke, and do you really want to put overspin on the ball? Most people try to keep the blade too low on the backswing. They actually drag it along the ground, and then it makes it very difficult for them to keep the blade low on the through swing. What this does is it imparts a little bit of downspin. It actually buries the ball down into the ground and creates it rolling that way, and you get a little bit of bounce. If you took a true pendulum stroke and hinged it up here at the top, what you would have is a situation where the blade would come up on the backswing, it would move down and be low right at the ball, and then would come up on the through swing. And it would be just as high off the ground in the finish of your follow-through as it would on your backswing. And again, your low point would be right at the ball. That would be the ideal for a true pendulum stroke. So the main thing that you want to do is get yourself in a position where you can swing this blade up, down, and up. Now, I have a little bit of problem with it, and so one of my techniques and training aids is to take 4 or 5 coins and set them down right behind the ball, about 6 or 7 inches behind the ball. And then when I'm practicing, I make sure that the blade gets up over those pennies. And that way, I'm in a position where I can have it up, down, up, and that imparts the most true roll that I can get.
It works. You know, the boys back home on Maui better look out because I may never miss another putt. But what happens if it breaks? You know, every putt can't be dead straight.
What we have here is a breaking putt. Now, the most important thing you need to consider here is your starting line. When you get behind the putt, you'll pick out a point that's even with the hole. This is the target that you want to start the ball on. Now, forget the hole. Don't even let that come into your mind at this point. You pick out the point where you want the ball to start, and then you're concentrating on starting that ball on that line. This is basically a dead straight putt. Now, sure, it's going to break down to the right, but in your own mind, you need to concentrate on making the same principles apply that you had on on the straight putt. When you get up over it, you've picked out your point where you want the ball to start. You concentrate on setting that blade very square to that line, just as on the straight putt. You set your upper body and your whole body square as you can to that line, and then you just concentrate on making a straight back, straight through stroke on that line. Now, the ball will only go on this line for a certain distance, and then it's going to start breaking off, and that's where distance comes into the factor. You can stand here and make a perfect stroke, straight back, straight through, start it on the line, but hit it too hard, and the ball is going to be beat through the break. That was an excellent stroke, only it's about 6 feet too far. The same thing applies if you hit it too easy. You start off, you make a perfect stroke, but it doesn't have enough speed to hold on that line. Now, these two putts are not the putts that you'd want to hit during a round of golf. These are not conducive for shooting any very good scores. So the thing you have to do is really work on your feel. You have to practice this. Just as you were a little kid learning to throw a ball to somebody when you were playing catch, that's how you have to practice your short game. You have to learn how far it is, how much stroke it takes to hit it this distance. You pick out your point, then you just work on the distance, concentrate on the speed, and hopefully dive the ball right into the hole. Obviously, the same principles apply on any breaking putt, whether it be left to right or right to left. You just pick out your point even with the hole where you want the ball to start, and then concentrate on your distance. You really must practice your distance because this is what enables you to make these breaking putts. Practice hard, hope it works for you.
Practice. You just can't get away from that. Just as in the first tape, the only way to acquire these skills is to practice. Tom Kite has a good, solid, sensible system, and that's a must. You've got to have something to practice. Just standing on a green rolling putts is not going to improve your putting. A method, a system is essential to the development of a good putting stroke. Let's review Tom's system. First, you must visualize the line you want the ball to start on. Remember, it's not the actual line of the putt, but the line the ball will roll on as it leaves the putter. Secondly, you must square your body, particularly your shoulders and your forearms, to that line. You must have your eyes directly over the ball. And finally, the putter has to go straight back on the line and straight through on the line. You've probably noticed that everything is based on 90-degree angles in Tom's systems. So think square and practice. And remember to think about that soft and gentle touch, and you'll be making putt after putt from everywhere. But also remember, you can't make them all. just like you can't hit all the greens. And that brings us to our next subject. When you miss a green, you can take a lot of pressure off your putter if you chip it so close you can just tap it in. But that takes a deft touch and a good technique. And we've got just the guy to demonstrate both. Mr. Soft and Gentle himself, my good friend, Craig Stadler.
Next to putting, chipping is the second most important asset of the game. We all think we can hit the greens all the time, but in reality, you and I both know it doesn't happen. To save pars, we need to make putts, but to make those putts time and time again, we need to set up our putts with good chips. There are basically two different ways we can chip the ball. We can lob the ball as if we're going over a bunker, going over a hump, an undulation in the green, or we can hit a pitch and run, which will happen with longer shots, with a lower lofted club, 8-iron, 7-iron, 6-iron. Our lob shots would be with a higher lofted club, sand wedge or pitching wedge. I'm going to show you some examples of both shots and how we do it. For example, in this shot here, we've got about 70 feet to the hole. It's a relatively flat surface. We're not going to want to use a lofted club because there's not any one spot or slope we can use to fly the ball to let it come down to the hole. Easier shot for here would be to take a less lofted club, a 7 or 6-iron, pick out a spot on the green, let the ball run all the way up. Since it's relatively flat, no great undulations, we can basically go right at the hole with a straight shot. We've got three keys we need to think about. First point we consider is ball position. We don't want the ball behind our right foot. Since we've got a low lofted club, we've got a 6-iron. We put it back here, we're coming to the ball too steep, we're never going to get it in the air. We're going to be in this position at impact, which will just dribble the ball on the ground. We move it too far forward in our stance, we'll be catching on the upswing, which is going to lift the ball in the air. We're not going to get the desired run and roll that we want. The ideal ball position will be just inside your right toe, right in here. The second point we need to consider is our hand position. We want our hands way ahead of the ball. As you can tell, they're not back here with the ball. My hands are a good 3 to 4 inches in front of the ball. That lets me go back without a weight shift, keeping my left arm stiff, the back of my left hand going out to the back and through to the target the whole way. We don't come over, we don't use our right hand and turn it over. We want to stay good and firm with our left side, our left hand out towards the target. The third and last thing we consider, or we do, is we pick out a spot on the green where we want to fly the ball to. In this case, we've got about 70 feet to the hole. We want to pick a spot out about 30 feet on the green. Since we have a 6-iron, we're not going to get too much height out of the shot. We're going to get a lot of roll. So we pick a spot about 30 feet, be it an old ball mark or an old hole or just a piece of grass laying there. After we pick our spot out, we have our ball position, our hands are in a good position. The only thought we have left is to fly the ball on that spot. It doesn't matter where the pin is or what kind of slope we have, as long as your spot you're going to pick out is to the right side if we have a right to left breaking shot, to the left side if we have a left to right breaking shot, and you compensate for how much break there's going to be. When we get good ball position, good hand position, pick out the spot on the green, go ahead and hit the shot. Even I can handle that one. Now let's try a different situation. Suppose your second shot carried this bunker, ended up on the hill up here. Well, from here I can tell I don't have the liberty of using all the green that I had with the prior shot with the 6-iron. I've got to carry it over this little dip also, so I think I'm going to have to go with a sand wedge here. Hit a lofted shot, it's going to lob up, not so much roll to carry all this undulation and dip in front. Now we've got a different shot altogether here. Our stance, unlike the shot we had with the 6-iron with our feet fairly close together with the ball off our right foot, we're going to open our stance up to the target, play the ball off our left toe now, have a little steeper rate of ascent with the sand wedge coming down through the ball, have a little bit of a weight shift because we're taking a longer backswing. Our turn is much longer than it was with the 6-iron from here. So we want to open our stance up. Again, our hands they feel like they're way ahead of the ball, but in reality, with your stance so open, they're about parallel to the ball position. Open up the club face just slightly. Again, we want to pick out a spot on the green we want to land the ball. Past this little swale here, since we're not going to get much roll, we want to land the ball about 15 feet short of the hole. We're going to take a little longer backswing. Again, making a little bit of a weight shift, a little bit more than with the other pitch and run shot. but not as much as we would with a normal shot. Opening up the club, the hands ahead. Again, we're going to keep the back of our left wrist right out through to the target. We're not going to turn it over with our right hand. That'll result in hitting the ball low, turning it right to left. You're going to hit a hard shot that's going to go past the pin. Ball off our left toe, our hands parallel with the ball, pick it up a little steeper, somewhat like we're in a bunker, and keep the back of our left hand through to the target. I like my chances for that one too. Now in a different situation again, we'll go down in this grass bunker. We've lost the slope we had on that hill. We've lost the ability to have the ball come down into the green and just get a little bit of a roll. Now we're more on an uphill shot. We've got to get the ball out of this bunker, at least onto the fringe, have very little roll because we've got to hit it hard enough to get it up in the air and onto the green. So again, we're going to use a sand wedge for this shot. Unlike the downhill shot, when our ball position was up off our left foot, now we're going to move it back. We're going to have it right in the middle of our stance, even maybe favoring our right side a little bit. That's going to enable us to get under the ball, a little farther up on the upswing, catch it on the upswing, get the ball in the air more. Again, we're not going to make a weight shift. We're going to keep our weight pretty much centralized, if not a little forward. You can see the normal position of my club face is here. We're going to open the club face almost like you would a bunker shot, if not a little more so. Again, our stance is wide open, but again, also the back of our left hand is aiming at the target. It's going to remain at the target the whole way through, ending up in a follow through like this, as opposed to letting your right hand take over in this position here and ending up here, turning the ball over. That's going to put overspin on the ball, and we're going to lose it way past the hole. One of the most important things is we don't want a weight shift. We make a weight shift, then we're going to get lost back here, and you're going to come into the shot like this without your left side, no legs involved. You can't get the club back to sweep the ball and get it in the air. If we make a weight shift, you can see what normally happens is that you might get lucky and hit the pin, but the majority of the time you're going to hit the ball over the green, then have to make another chip shot. On the other hand, if you make a poor swing the other way, whereas you get your weight forward, which we should have it, stance open, the blade open, but you don't make your follow-through, you don't get a high follow-through to lift the ball in the air. Once we fail to make our follow-through, you're going to stick the club in the air and hit a shot that we've all seen. You come down here and you get nothing out of it. Now I've got one more shot I want to show you.
The fact is, this guy's got so many shots he can't count them all. And that's because he's one amazing talent. Watch how lightly he handles the club. He's the best.
Now here's a shot that's just a little different from the shot we did first with the 6-iron. Having to go through this 4 or 5 inches of thick grass means we have to hit it harder initially to get it through this grass, then onto the green surface where it's going to be very difficult to control the amount of speed we have on the shot to get it close to the hole. So we're going to go to a 9-iron to chip this shot with. Basically, it's the same shot we had with the first one, with the shot we hit with the 6-iron. It's a flat shot, there's no undulations. The only difference with this shot is it's a little downhill. Since it is downhill, we're going to take a more lofted club to get the ball higher in the air so it comes down softer and has less roll, so we can control it a little bit better than we did with the 6-iron, the real low shot that ran a long ways. Again, we're going to have our feet real close together. The weight's going to be on our left side, the same as it was with the other shot. Only difference being, our grip is going to be, my right hand is about 3 inches down the shaft on this shot. Mainly because it's a real short shot, I want to keep it real stiff with my left hand and left arm in here, so I don't lose the club back in here and come down and hit it offline. I want to be real firm right through the swing in here. You can see I have very little, if any, shift here. Maybe only an inch or so, whereas with the 6-iron it was a bit more. So we're going to be real firm, a little more bend in our knees to get down on the shot, allow us to take it up a little steeper, come into it, very short swing, only taking it back about 2 feet or so. Again, as in the other shots, I'm going to pick out a spot, now right here, right on the green where I want to fly the ball to. Once I hit the shot, or start to hit the shot, that's going to be the only thought in my mind is hitting the ball on that spot. I'm not paying a bit of attention where the pin is. You've just seen 4 different chip shots that you'll be faced with the next few times you go out and play golf. You too can learn to hit these chip shots. but it's just going to take a little bit of time, a little patience, and lots of practice on the chipping green.
You know, Craig and I roomed together on the European tour some time ago, and he really taught me how to chip. And I want to tell you that you can improve your chipping, or any part of your game, just by watching him. He has the best sense of control and tempo, which equates to touch and feel, that I think I've ever seen. And if you watch him long enough, some of it's bound to rub off. Let's review the things he's talked about. There are two basic kinds of chip shots. The running chip with a 6 or 7 iron, or even less if you prefer, and the lofted chip, in which the ball is lofted into the air more softly with a wedge and stops quickly on the green. There are 3 basic factors that affect these shots: the placement of the ball in your stance and the position of your hands relative to the ball. Once you have your ball position and hand position, you should pick a spot where you want the ball to land and concentrate on that spot. Go back and study the Stadler method. Work on the things he works on and your chipping may begin to resemble his. We're going to go into some longer shots now, pitch shots as they're commonly called. And we're going to start with one of the most valuable shots a player can master. And speaking of masters, here's Lanny Watkins.
What we have here is a shot that really is one of the scoring shots in golf. A little pitch shot, chip shot, small wedge shot, but the kind that you really ought to be getting close to the hole. I play this shot normally with a sand wedge. We've got about a 40-yard shot to the front edge of the green, about another 25 to 30 yards to the pin. This shot needs to be played with firmness. Mainly, I play the ball in the center of my stance for this shot. I try to keep the club on a nice, even path. I never want the club breaking up too sharply or abruptly. I want it going back nice and smooth. A slight turn. I don't want my swing very long. I want it short and under control, and I want to drive the club down the intended line of flight towards the target and keep the ball in line as much as possible. I don't want any curve on this shot. I want the right hand releasing under the ball so that the ball has some spin and going into the hole. There's several ways to play this shot. I'd play it with a sand wedge, like I said. Some people use a pitching wedge and try and get the ball to run more. I'm going to show you how I like to play the shot at first. I'll take the sand wedge. I choke up on it a little bit, about this much. I don't want the club getting too long in the swing, as I said, and by choking up on it, I keep the club head and the club itself under control at all times and not let the swing get away from me. Have my stance slightly open. I don't want to make a big turn. I want to stay right on top of the ball and drive down through the shot, on line. This ball's in about the middle of my stance. A nice, firm little sand wedge. Well, that's how I do it. Now let's look at another option. We'll take a pitching wedge. And what we're going to try and do here is a shot that I might use really if the wind's blowing. I don't want to get the ball up in the air. I want to keep it down under control and use what I have in front of me, which is a lot of green. And there's no real problem here, so I want the ball going in low. And the first thing I'm going to do with this shot, before I do that, I'll replace my divot and be a gentleman, is put the ball back in my stance. I'm going to keep my stance open. I'm going to still try and have the club going back on a nice straight line without getting too much inside or too much outside. I'm going to still have my stance open, but the ball back in my stance. I'm still going to have the club choked up a little bit, where I have a lot of control of the club head. My weight's going to be a little bit further forward than it would have been with the sand wedge. And I'm going to be driving a little bit more with the right hand on top of the ball. Not really underneath it to spin it, but on top of the ball to try and get a flatter trajectory and get the ball releasing and running to the hole. A little firm, but the line was good.
The line was good? That's what you call knocking down the flag, I'd say. Lanny gave us a good example there of the kind of personal choices you can make in the short game. Choices that fit your style of play and abilities. He played the shot with a sand wedge, but made it clear that a pitching wedge will work too.
What we've got here is a pitch shot that gives everyone trouble. It's a pitch shot that requires A lot of practice, requires a little bit of skill and some hard work and some imagination. We're going to take this pitch shot. What we've got to do is we've got to carry it over this hump. We can only see the top of the flag. And the trick to this shot, as far as technique, is keeping the ball forward in your stance and getting some elevation of the shot. You want the shot to go up and land softly, maybe just release a little bit and go to the hole. We're not trying to hit a big spinning shot, anything that's firm. We want a nice controlled lob where the ball just goes and lands on the green and releases down to the hole. What I'll try and do here is to get the ball with some elevation is play the ball forward in my stance. I'm going to take a nice smooth swing, try and get the right hand under the ball, throwing the ball up into the air. One way to do this is to keep the handle moving at all times. Don't break the club up too sharply. You want the handle to move back and then back through the ball, creating some rhythm in the shot. Try and demonstrate here. Ball slightly forward in our stance, choking up on the club for control, knees flexed, and then just try and move the handle back on line and drive the right hand under, throwing the ball up into the air. That wasn't too bad, so let's try something a little different. Something a little different and a little more difficult. I'm going to put the ball above my feet, probably a good foot or so above my feet. And this is a very, very difficult shot, one that I would do well to get up and down even half the time. The trick to getting this shot anywhere around the pin is getting some loft out of this shot. With the ball above your feet and a slight downslope going towards the hole, it's very difficult to get the ball up in the air where you can stop it. Now what we're going to try to do is put it up in the air. And to do that, we've got to hit the shot with some firmness. We've got to have the club accelerating through the ball, driving the ball up into the air. The club face has to be open. And the reason to hit it hard is with an open club face and the ball this much above your feet, the tendency is to go under the shot and probably leave it short in the hillside here. I'll move it back in my stance slightly. I'm still going to have the club going back on the same line as I would the flat pitch. Fairly straight back, driving under with the right hand. I'm aiming to the right of the hole, which is one of the most difficult things to do, is to make yourself line up to the right. Because of the extreme side hill lie, you're going to pull the ball to the left. So by aiming to the right, it kind of compensates for that. Now I'm going to go through the shot, very firm with the right hand, and try and throw the ball up into the air. Well, that wasn't too bad. Let's go over and try another variation of that shot. We're going to move over and try this shot from a downhill lie, downhill, side hill, ball below our feet. This is a much easier shot than what we looked at over there. The ball, when the ball on this type of lie is very easy to throw up into the air, as opposed to the shot over there where it was a considerable effort to throw the ball into the air. We had to hit it much harder. This one, don't have to hit it quite as hard. The lay of the land with sloping uphill and the ball below your feet enables you to just take a short, firm swing, keeping the club accelerating, and the ball, just because of the lay of the land with the ground going sideways and you're hitting slightly uphill, throws the ball up into the air just almost automatically. The loft of the club becomes more accentuated going up the hill, and the ball comes out a little softer and with a little bit more spin. So what I'm going to do here is try and get up a little bit closer to the ball so that I can keep the club accelerating through the ball, and I really want to stay down this shot. The only place you can really make a real bad mistake here is if you come up out of the shot too soon with the ball below your feet and you'll hit it to the right. What we want to do here is have the ball in about the center of our stance, choke up on the club where we've got good control of it, keep basically the same swing plane that we've been using, and go under the ball with the right hand and just fire through it, let the ball come up by itself. Should release and run right to the hole. I think that'll do.
Just let it come up, huh, Lanny? Sometimes these guys make it sound too easy. But the fact is, that's good advice. If you'll concentrate on a good, soft and gentle touch, instead of thinking about trying to lift the ball, chances are it'll just come up.
Now here's a situation that requires a little imagination and a little talent. I'm going to show you a technique that will probably work from this situation for you. We're going to take this shot and try and get as close to the hole as possible, either one of two ways. We're going to either land it short in the heavy fringe or short rough, or carry it on the green and try and spin it and stop it around the hole. The first shot I'm going to play is to try and carry it on the green. With this shot, I want to play the ball a little further forward in my stance, up here with a slightly open blade. Take the club inside, let the right hand go under the shot, throwing the ball up into the air, nice and soft. Want to keep your head very still on this shot. Just knees relaxed, club open, ball forward. Path of the club is slightly inside. The right hand goes underneath and throws the ball right up in the air, right at the hole. That would work most of the time. The second shot I'm going to show you is a shot that you can probably get away with a little bit easier, and that's to use the rough and the slope that we have here. Slightly downhill shot here. What I would do on this shot is pick out a target. We have a sprinkler head about 3 feet off the green there. I'd try and land it just short of the sprinkler head in the rough, let the ball release down towards the hole. For this shot, I'm going to play it slightly back in my stance as compared to the other shot, because I want the ball to hit and go forward. This way, if I miss-hit the shot a little bit, I've got some of the hill to take the heat off me and let the ball release onto the hole. Basically the same little swing, the ball just further back in my stance, and the club face a little bit more square. Try and land it around the sprinkler head, just a nice simple swing. Move the handle and club head back at the same time. That's not too bad, but as you see, the ball ran on a little bit further. It gave you a little bit more room for error, but that's what we're working with here. We're not trying to play a great shot, just a good solid shot. I think if you practice these techniques I've shown you, getting the club going away from the ball, slightly inside to straight away, not breaking the club up too quick, having the handle go with the club head, it's going to give you more tempo in your swing, and it should improve your game immensely.
Well, that's what we're all about here, improving your game. And we can do just that for you if you review the things that Lanny discussed, and then practice them. Did you think I was going to forget to mention practice? Lanny advocates control above all else. You can choke down on the club to help accomplish this. A minimum turn or weight transfer will help keep your stroke nice and tight. Move the ball forward in your stance for the softer and more lofted shots, and move it back towards the right foot for the lower driving shots. You probably noticed that Lanny swings with a quicker tempo than Craig Stadler did in the previous segment. This is a function of personality and temperament. Lanny's touch is a matter of record, but Craig's tempo might be better to emulate. It's got to be you, though. If Lanny tried Craig's slower tempo, it wouldn't work. Point being, find your own rhythm. If you had Stadler's tempo and Watkins' control under pressure, well, you figure it out. We're going now to the most misunderstood shot in golf, one the pros always make look so easy. There's a reason for that. It is easy. Hal Sutton's going to explain.
Okay, we're going to talk about the bunker shots now, and let's clarify something. This is not a difficult shot. Every week I play with Pro-Am partners, and they all seem to try to make it a lot more difficult than it is. They've got a phobia in their mind that they can't hit this shot, so let's see if we can put together some simple fundamentals that'll help them get rid of that thought in their mind. The first thing I want to talk about is bounce and flange. When I'm talking about a flange, I'm talking about this right here. Now, to create bounce, if it's square, the leading edge is down on the ground. If I open it up, we're going to create bounce. The leading edge is going to come up off of the ground because the flange is on the ground, not the leading edge. So the higher I want to hit the shot, the more I'm going to open up like this. The more loft I'm going to create on the club. The lower, the more I'm going to square the club up. The leading edge will get down on the ground, and our normal loft will be created. Now let's talk about this shot right up here. We're going to create a very simple shot. We're going to be very close to the pin. We're up next to the lip, which means I don't have to carry it very far. I've got enough green to work with that it doesn't bother me at all. It's a relatively simple shot. So we're going to talk about our stance now. I'm going to open up. I'm going to set the ball pretty much in the middle of my stance because I don't have to hit it real high. I'm going to open up 3 or 4 yards left of the target. I'm going to set the club down square to the target, though. And I'm going to try to hit that ball, or try to hit behind the ball, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, somewhere right in here. I'm going to take the club outside the line because I want to create a little height, and I want to kind of hit a descending blow. Now, the higher I want to hit it, the sharper I'll take the club up. The lower I want to hit it, I'll keep the club a little bit lower going back. Now, let's see if we can hit this shot. Don't make it too hard. Just take it outside and hit behind the ball. Now, see, that wasn't that difficult a shot. I should have gotten it close. But now let's talk about a more difficult shot. Oftentimes on the tour, I've hit a very good shot right at the hole, but miscalculated on the distance, buried it in the lip of the bunker. We've got a pretty tough bunker shot here because it is buried. We don't have a lot of green to work with. Now, let me explain why we don't have as much green to work with, even though in reality we do. Whenever the ball is buried, I've got no control over how much spin it's going to have when it comes out of here. So therefore, I don't have a lot of green to work with. I've got to use all the green that we've got here. I've got to try to land it as close as I can there so that I can use the whole depth of the green. On a buried lie, let's go back to the bounce and the flange and stuff. Whenever we've got a buried lie, I said before that you could open up for the regular shot. Buried lie, you've got to do the opposite. You've got to shut it down. We're going to create less loft. In reality, we're still going to have quite a bit of loft because we've got an uphill slope that we're hitting it off of right here. We're going to get our feet planted in here good. I'm going to still try to hit 1 inch to 1.5 inches behind the ball, but I'm not going to take it outside like I did before. I'm going to try to take it straight back. Another fallacy is everybody thinks you have to hit it hard. You don't have to hit it hard unless it's really buried deep. Here we don't have a shot that's buried real deep. We've got a relatively easy buried lie, if there is such a thing. So we're going to just kind of take a nice soft swing at it, and we're just going to let the club do all the work. So let's see if we can hit 1 inch behind the ball, 1.5 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood, and let the club do the work. One of the things about bunker shots is that from many different variations, you create many different circumstances that you have to learn how to adapt to. If I move back here, say right here, I've already created a new shot for myself. I've got more carry that I've got to create here for myself. I've got less green yet to work with because I'm a lot further back in the bunker. So what I'd like to do here is let's see if we can figure out a way to get this one close. I've probably got to carry the ball maybe 15 yards right here. So that's my main concern. I don't want to put it in the bunker. I want to come out of the bunker. At all costs, I've got to have a putt. We're not trying to get it close. We're trying to get it out at this particular point. Same things are going to apply that we talked about for the simple shot up there. We're going to open our blade up, and we're going to create a little more loft, and we're going to think carry on this one. We're going to take it outside. We're going to be aimed left of the target. We're going to, again, try to hit 1.5 inches behind the ball. We're going to take a little bit bigger swing and maybe not make it as steep a blow because we've got a little bit longer carry. So let's see if we can get this done. Okay, that was a pretty good shot. I like that shot. Let's see if we can make this a real difficult shot. We're going to move all the way back here in the back of the bunker and put the ball on a downslope. Okay, we've got the whole length of the bunker here, and we've got very little green to work with up there. We're going to have to open up because I've got to get the ball up high. I've got to get as much carry as I can. I don't know what to say here other than this is just really not the spot to be. I don't like being here, and I'm sure you wouldn't like being here. We're going to have to put the ball kind of back in our stance because I don't want to hit the sand coming back. We're going to have a real sharp descending blow like this, which is going to be hard to carry that far. So we're just going to open up. Again, we're going to hit about 1.5 inches behind the ball. We're going to really swing at this. We're going to come out of this bunker. Try if you can not to go completely outside, but you're going to have to clear this lip coming back here, so you'll have to just work with it and see what you can do. Let's see what we can do with this. Needless to say, I'm very pleased with that shot, but I'm going to show you how to make this even a more difficult shot.
We're going to bury this ball right here in the back part of this bunker. Sometimes we hit bad shots like this. We don't like them, but we can't help it sometimes. We've got a real difficult situation. We've got to use common sense on this. We've got to use what I call course management. We've got what I would call an impossible shot right here. We've got the full length of the bunker that we've got to carry. We've got no green to work with up there at all. And I don't know what to say other than we're just going to have to accept the consequences and aim at the fat part of the green. If I were to aim at the hole right here, I can't put any spin whatsoever on the ball, and it's going to release when it hits. I can't really judge if I can carry it that far or not. So we're just going to accept the consequences that we've left ourselves with here. We're going to aim left over here, and the only way we'll make a par is if we make a long putt. Now, the same principles apply for this bunker shot as what I told you before. We're going to back the ball up in our stance a little bit. We're going to shut it down. Remember, our bounce, we're not going to open up. We're going to shut it down. We're on a down slope. We're still going to hit about an inch, inch and a half behind the ball. We're not going to take it as far outside. We're going to take it not inside, but just pretty much straight back. Hands a little bit forward on this particular shot because you got to get it up because of this slope back here. We're just going to try to put it right there in the fat part of the green. Let's see if we can make this happen. Okay, that's all I'd ever expect to do from that position. But let's create some new circumstances. From this bunker, we played a variety of shots, but we've all played from a deep bunker, not a lot of green to work with. Let's go over to this bunker right here. We've got a much shallower bunker. We've got a lot more green to work with. So we're going to think automatically that we're going to try to run this ball a little bit more. We've got all kinds of green to work with, so we're going to just flop it out of the bunker and hope we can have a lot of run on this. Let's talk about the bounce and the flange again. On a shot like this where we want a little bit more run, we won't open up nearly as much. We don't have a big lip that we've got to clear, so we're going to not keep it square. We're going to open it just a little bit. We're not going to take it quite as far outside, a little bit straighter back. Going to have the ball back in our stance a little bit because we don't have to get it up real quick. Again, we're going to aim a little bit left, not quite as far because we don't have the blade open quite as much. Okay, again, we're going to hit about an inch and a half behind the ball, and I really want to visualize where I want to hit this shot on the green. We want to land it about 10 feet on the green, and hopefully it'll run the rest of the way. So let's just visualize that and see if we can make it happen. Well, that's okay, but I tell you what, we can even make this a little bit easier by burying this shot. We've got a lot of green to work with, and by burying it, it'll help the ball release closer to the hole. So let's try that one once. We're going to bury it. We're going to apply all the fundamentals that we've already talked about. We're going to back the ball up in the stance a little bit. We're going to shut the face down. And remember our bounce. We're going to, instead of creating more loft and more bounce, we're going to take it away. So we're going to take it away. We're not going to take it outside. We're going to, again, hit about an inch and a half behind the ball. Let's see if we can make this happen. And as you can see, the ball released better, and we got it closer to the hole. So that's one instance where a buried lie is to our advantage.
I've never heard it explained any clearer than that. Golf's easiest shot made easier, if you'll work at it. Here's a review. In order to understand the principle of the sand wedge, you've got to understand the club itself, and particularly the flange, and how it creates bounce. The more the club is laid open, the greater the loft and the greater the bounce, causing the club to slide or bounce through the sand. The club should be taken outside the intended line of flight on the backswing in order to bounce it through the sand across the line of flight on the downswing. Close the club face and eliminate the bounce for a buried lie. Swing on a normal straight back and straight through path and allow for more roll. Those of you who have trouble with bunker shots, you now have the answers. All you have to do is learn to apply them. So you know what to do about that. No dissertation on the short game can ever be complete, nor any aspect of the game for that matter, for there are no two shots that are the same. This next section will attempt to address that by encouraging you to use your imagination. Payne Stewart is going to try and stimulate your imagination by showing you some simple solutions to some of those sticky situations that we sometimes find ourselves in.
You know, the game of golf is a funny one. Sometimes you get good breaks and sometimes you get bad breaks, and you need to make the most of both of them. Now, I was unfortunate enough to hit it over this par 3, and here I am, I'm faced with a difficult shot. And if I'd received a good break, the ball would have rolled a little farther, and the shot would be basically set up for myself. I'm on an uphill lie. All I have to do is set in behind the shot, along with the contours of the ground. The upslope's going up this way. My shoulders are going up with the upslope. My weight's generally back on my right side. And I've set up in behind the ball. Now all I have to do is swing my arms, much as if I was going to pitch the ball up in the air. Pitch it up in the air, carrying the bunker, and watching it go right next to the hole. Now on the other hand, what if my ball had stopped over here on this downslope? Now, I'm faced with virtually an impossible shot. The sand wedge you're going to have to hit would have to be absolutely perfect to pull this shot off. So this is where I'm going to use my imagination. And you have to have a lot of imagination around the green because sometimes it can really help you out. So instead of using my sand wedge for this shot, I'm going to use my 4-iron. Now I'm going to chip the ball into the bunker, let it run through the bunker and up onto the green. And in order to do that, as you can tell, the contour of the ground, everything's running away from me. So I'm going to move the ball back into my stance. This is going to put my hands and arms forward of the ball. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the ball, driving the ball into the bunker, running through the bunker, and up onto the green. Well, that shot will work. But what happens if we've hit the ball over here, missed the green wide over here to the right of the hole? Now we don't have anything in front of us. There's no trouble to go over or around. So, why should we try to make a difficult shot out of an easy one? No reason to want to pitch the ball up in the air on the green, because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to pull that shot off. Let's take an easy shot and make it easier. I mean, even as the grass is closely mown here, you could even use your putter if you felt that you wanted to use that. But I'm going to choose to use a 7-iron, and we're going to play a little bump and run, and I'll show you how easy it is to play from here. What we're doing is we're just going to play your basic little chip shot. Chip the ball up there and let it run onto the green right up next to the hole. Now, isn't that a lot simpler than trying to pitch the ball up on the green? Now, what would happen if we were unfortunate enough for our ball to stop right over here on the edge of the water? You know, obviously, I'm not going to be able to get in there and hit it right-handed. So here's where we have to use a little more of that imagination we've talked about. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a putter with a back flange on it, like I do, you might want to use your putter in this shot. Basically, you're just going to swing your arms, hit the ball on the back of the putter. All we're trying to do is get the ball up there on the green someplace. Now, we have to be satisfied with that. Now, if you don't have a flange on the back of your putter, you might want to use one of your long irons. Now, I've chosen a 3-iron. Same thing. You're just trying to get the ball up there on the green, and maybe you'll make the putt for par. Now, that's not all bad. Well, what happens if we were unfortunate enough to hit the ball way over here? Now we're going to have to play the shot over the edge of the water. What are we going to use now? Well, now I've practiced this shot before, and I'm going to use my sand wedge. Now this is a shot that takes a lot of practice and a lot of belief in yourself that you're able to do it. Because you never know, sometime you might have to pull this off, and it might mean the difference in winning and losing. So the ball's come to rest right here by the water. What I've done, I've taken my sand wedge and just turned it around so I can use it left-handed. It's going to be the same type of motion, arm swing motion, trying to pitch the ball. And once again, all we're trying to do is get the ball up there on the green. We don't necessarily want to knock it in the hole, but if that happens, that happens. Now that's not all bad from there. At least we're not in that water, and we still have a chance to make our par.
If you're Payne Stewart, that might happen. But for the rest of us, it'll do just fine to get that shot on the green, anywhere. An interesting point here, though, is notice Payne's tempo remains the same even when he makes a left-handed swing. Try it yourself and watch how automatically you make a reflex stab at your first couple of swings, trying to help the ball up. It serves to make the point that Payne is making when he refers to a smooth arm swing, and the one that we've been making right along about soft and gentle.
Now this is another situation you might find yourself in. Your ball's rolled just through the green and right up against that collar. It's too much grass between you and the ball to get your putter on it. And it might be a little too clumsy to use like a 7-iron to chip it. There'd be too much grass in between there. So what I do, I use my sand wedge. And I try to hit the leading edge of my sand wedge right on the top half of the ball. Some people prefer their sand wedge, some people prefer their pitching wedge. But the stroke is virtually the same stroke as you use as when you're putting the ball. I even use the same grip as I use when I putt the ball. So here I am. I've placed the ball, placed the leading edge of the club in the top half of the ball, and now I'm just going to go ahead and make my basic putting stroke. You'll notice how cleanly that ball came out of there. So remember the things that we've talked about. Get that nice, comfortable grip in there to develop that feel. Use your imagination. Have fun, and be sure to practice.
Yes, by now you must have gotten the message. Practice. The one sure way to improve your golf game, and the one overriding message in this tape and the preceding one. If it sounds like a broken record, well, we want you to improve. And we know you can't if you don't work at it. In reviewing Payne's pointers, two primary thoughts come through loud and clear. First, be creative with your short game. Let your imagination go. And second, and this is crucial, make a nice, easy swing. Keep that light touch. Here's a final word from the players.
The techniques we've shown you will improve your short game if you practice.
You'll find as you practice that variations of the basic stroke will come to you.
That's good. Let yourself experiment.
You need to be creative and imaginative in the short game.
Because no two shots are exactly the same.
But remember the key.
The one everybody thinks they know.
Relax.
Be comfortable.
Feel the distance.
And
Good luck.
Well, there's not much I can add to that. I'll just say, soft and gentle. Work on it. See you in tape 3.
Sharing is how we play the game. This year, Nabisco Golf and the PGA Tour events will give over $20 million to charities like these.
The benefactors include organizations like Easter Seals, Special Olympics, Nancy Reagan TPC Village, Junior Golf, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, plus many hospitals and research foundations nationwide. Every year, with Nabisco's help, the leading money winner on the PGA Tour is charity.
Sharing is the game for those of us who play in the Nabisco Golf Team charity competition. because all our team winnings go directly to charities like the ones you just saw.
Nabisco Golf Team Charity and the PGA Tour. Sharing is how we play the game. For further help on any of the points covered in this tape, see your local PGA professional. The preceding was produced by PGA Tour Productions in association with Reed Dolph Incorporated. To tens of millions of golf fans, the PGA Tour is the standard by which golf playing excellence is measured. The PGA Tour, in conjunction with Nabisco Golf, is proud to present its first instructional golf series. Stay in tune with your game with the full swing, the short game, and course strategy. They're geared to help you play the PGA Tour way. For further information on any of the PGA Tour instructional series, call 1-800-PLAY-IVE.